Hi everyone, Kathy Rose here, and I'm going to talk to you about the astrological patterns for August 2025. And we begin just appreciating the very dynamic energy of Leo. The mandala on screen is representing the royal Leo energy with all of its drama. It's a fire sign and it's very dynamic and extroverted. And we get to bring that into the background energy just a bit, the leadership, the confidence, the sparkling energy that wants to shine. But there's more. Let's talk about the themes happening in August related to the other planets moving around. So, first, we have compromise and cooperation that is starting to move forward into public view, and that's going to be taking place because Mars enters the sign Libra. So, I'm going to talk about that in a moment. We have leadership mixed with harmony, and that has to do with the fact that the sun is traveling through Leo, and also Mercury ends the retrograde in Leo, and Mercury will stay in this sign for the entire month. So leadership with harmony. Nice, right? And then we also, of course, need to be focusing on the higher awareness of co-creating our reality, and that's due to Uranus and Gemini. Um, it is so important to be thinking that way. So I'll be talking about that in a moment also. All right, let's begin just with a reminder. Saturn and Neptune are now retrograde in the sign Aries, and very shortly they're both going to re-enter the sign Pisces, and the dynamic is really going to shift. So Saturn and Neptune will finish this major cycle in Pisces, and we're going to need to wrap things up in that sign and then get ready to launch into Aries in early 2026 and really get moving on what we're supposed to learn, specifically with Neptune in Aries. So appreciate it as we go through August because they will still be activating the Aries energy. And again, and I've mentioned it in many other videos, Saturn and Neptune in Aries trying to remind us we are capable, we are confident, we are brave. We can initiate things in our life and make things happen so that we achieve our goals, that we need to specifically move forward. And so that dynamic is still going to be strong in August, but it's going to shift in the fall. It's going to be quite interesting. So I'll talk more about that when I get to the Saturn in Pisces interpretation when we get to September. Okay. So Mars in Libra. Oh, we have to talk about this. On August 6th, Mars enters the beautiful sign Libra and will stay there until September 22nd. Now, the ancients said Mars in Libra doesn't function very well because it's very different energy. Libra is ruled by Venus, and Mars is this strong action warrior energy. And so when you get Mars in Libra, the action wants to be more graceful. It wants to be infused with polite behavior. And I think Mars in Libra can work really well if we are mindful, if we take strong steps forward, but we infuse ourselves with grace, with harmony, with peace, where instead of resolving conflict through fighting or harsh words, we remember to be polite and cooperate. That's going to be the dynamic starting August 6th, going through September 22nd, and we can embrace it. This image that's on screen is a flower, a camellia, that I shot in my yard in our old house. I had these huge bushes and they would flower magnificently. And you could stand next to them and just feel this phenomenal harmony and peace and beauty. And I thought it represented the Mars and Libra energy so well. So remember to, embrace this, flow into this. Remember polite behavior. Mars in Libra really doesn't flow well with coarse, nasty, fighting, aggressive energy. It's smoother, it's more beautiful. On August 9th, we have the full moon in Aquarius. And this has some spectacular energetic patterns in it. First, you know, if you are watching my videos, I don't overly annotate my charts, but you're going to see more aspect lines and more colors than I normally put on a chart because we have a really, really interesting pattern here. First of all, there's a grand trine, and that's depicted by that blue triangle between Mars and Libra, Uranus and Gemini, and Pluto and Aquarius. So it's an air grand trine, which is highlighting communication, highlighting our thinking, highlighting the very special energy I talked about, which is co creating our reality mindfully, knowing that our thoughts and our beliefs help to co create what we want to achieve in life. Get behind this because Uranus is only going to be into Gemini until November. Then it's going to re enter Taurus and it won't enter Gemini again until April of 2026. Then it spends 7 years in that sign. But this is the introduction to enthusiastically embracing the power of our thoughts, the power of our declarations, not just affirmations, but declarations. So, this full moon in Aquarius is highlighting that because of that grand trine, but you're going to see that the shape from the aspects almost looks like a kite. And that's because there's a mini trine at the top, and those are the light blue lines. So Uranus is making harmonious aspects to Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto, funneling down to Mars. So everything hinges on taking your courage, your confidence, your very brave, beautiful sense of self, and expressing it with harmony and love, expressing it with cooperation and gracefulness. I mean, the statement here is so powerful, and that's echoed and reinforced by the fact that we have Venus Jupiter conjunct in Cancer for this full moon. So the Venus Jupiter conjunction echoes the need for harmony and grace and peace. But in this case, in Cancer, it's also nurturing, it's loving energy, it's sensitive energy, it's friendly, it's give your friend a hug sort of energy, express gratitude and love and support for others. So, this very potent full moon in Aquarius, where the sun is opposite the moon, 17 degrees, is saying, please communicate something nice to another person. Please fill your spirit with lovingness. If you have a conflict you need to resolve, as I said earlier, try to do it gracefully and lovingly. There's always a way to do that. And then you will be stepping into the flow. This is going to be very strong at this full moon in Aquarius. Mercury's in the very last part of the retrograde. Just a few days after this full moon, it ends the retrograde. So I think that there's something very important about this full moon. Now, there is another statement here, and that is this chart is set for Washington, D.C., because it's the country in which I live, and Washington is the capital. And when we have planets on angles, and you may not be an astrologer, maybe you don't know how to read a chart, but if you look at the top of the chart, you're going to see Neptune and Saturn close to the midheaven. If you look at the left side, you're going to see Venus and Jupiter on the ascendant. And then you look at the very bottom, you're going to see Mars on the IC. Well, that is alerting me to the fact that during this full moon in Aquarius, there may be some very strong activity happening in the United States, socially or politically, or maybe with weather patterns. I don't know. But this is standing out for a reason. Something important or big may be in development. Now, of course, I'm going to energize that it's something positive, something useful, that that it's something good. Because I like that grand trine and the mini trine here. And I'm otherwise, we go into anxiety and there's no need for that. So energize with me that maybe there's going to be some very nice breakthrough happening with the United States or policies related to the United States that are useful and um, resolve conflict harmoniously, right? And then a few days after that full moon, as I mentioned, Mercury ends the retrograde at 4 degrees Leo. So, again, if you have planets in Leo between 4 degrees and 15 degrees, you have been receiving contact from this Mercury retrograde. You've been receiving a conjunction, which is a very, very productive time. And even if you don't have planets in Leo, this Mercury retrograde has pushed us to internalize our own inner authority. It's pushed us to live by our word and our promises so that we don't let ourselves down. It has a lot to do with the embrace of inner authority. The image on screen is a Hamza that I created about 10, 15 years ago. And the original just it glowed with a lot of golden energy. It looks more orange golden here on screen, but it was a lot of golden energy. It was shiny, it was sparkly. And I thought that that really fit with Mercury ending the retrograde at 4 degrees Leo. Interesting. So towards the end of the month, we have a new moon in Virgo, August 23rd, 1:24 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Again, this is set for Washington, D.C. And the sun and the moon will conjoin at 0 degrees of Virgo. So the sun will have just entered the sign, and then we have this new moon. We still have that mini trine going on. You see that in the screen, highlighted in the light blue. And what's fascinating, of course it would be so, that the purple line that's on the screen is actually called a quincunx or an inconjunct, and that is going to be between the sun and the moon and Saturn and Neptune. Now, when we have a quincunx, there is a need for adjustment. These are energies that don't understand each other. They're very, very different. So we have the Virgo need for service and detail and precision, um, with 150 degrees from, which is the inconjunct or quincunx, from Saturn and Neptune, which is bold and dynamic and full of confidence and full of creativity that just wants to initiate something new. Virgo wants to get it right and take their time and be precise. Aries wants to rush and just create and move it forward. So we have this adjustment that's going to be taking place, which says, yes, be brave, be strong, be confident, and also breathe. Also get the details right. So this new moon in Virgo is a great time to continue doing any feng shui adjustments in your home or your garage or your office. Throw things away, release them, sell them, give them away, freshen the energy in your home. A new moon in Virgo is a fantastic time to let fresh air come into your life and circulate. Um, it's really quite beautiful. Now, at the same time in this new moon, we're going to have the sun and moon squaring the planet Uranus in Gemini. And that is a dynamic aspect. So this entire chart, the new moon in Virgo, is speaking so loudly to me, saying how important it is for us to use our spirituality to create our reality through, conscious declarations, consciously energizing our thoughts, and then not criticize ourselves, because that's the shadow side of moon and Virgo, sun and moon in Virgo. And so that quincunx that is developing here with Saturn and Neptune in Aries, it could easily show the shadow side, which is overthinking, criticizing, overanalyzing, second guessing, because the Aries energy never second guesses because it moves too fast. It doesn't have time. But the Virgo energy is prone to second guessing. So this is saying make the adjustment to have confidence within yourself, and move forward with service in your heart. That's the highest expression of Virgo. And be bold and not overthink, not overanalyze. That's square to Uranus. Says you could get stuck and not move forward if you get stuck in your head, if you are overanalyzing. So you don't need to. This is actually quite powerful and quite beautiful, and I think something magical could be manifesting. Now, you notice that the sun and the moon are on an angle. They're on that fourth house cusp called the IC, and this is set for Washington, D.C. So, again, there may be something strong happening in the United States, something significant. It's not as strong as that full moon chart, but there is still something there. So, I'm going to be interested to see what that might be. So, the final thoughts for August. I think the most important thing is to deeply appreciate the concept of the self-fulfilling prophecy because of the Uranus and Gemini making those beautiful aspects, that mini trine between Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto right now, going on for the entire month of August, is so beautiful. It just opens the door for this perfect flow of energy if you step into it and engage. And that has to do with understanding that the words that you say, the thoughts that you have, and the way you talk to yourself is very important. So it says, be mindful what you tell yourself because you get to be right. So if you are telling yourself the world is all screwed up, the United States is a mess, nothing ever works out for me, then you will get to be right. And at this moment, with this strong energy that we have going on, it's going to manifest more quickly than normal to try to get your attention so that you make the connection that you are manifesting the very things that you are telling yourself. So you might as well cooperate. And again, I say this over and over. I'll say it again one more time here. When you do your declarations, I advise, I like to be generally specific and specifically general so that I'm not controlling or forcing or trying to make things happen, but I am stating the essence of what I want in my life. I am placing the order with the universe. Whether that is just simply saying I'm in the flow at the right place at the right time, therefore I'm safe. Therefore, things always work out for me. Therefore, I always arrive exactly when the opportunity shows up. Those kinds of, that's generally specific and specifically general. So practice that. We don't manifest as well when we get tight and we force or we try to control. We manifest beautifully well when we state the essence with authority and confidence and then release it and turn it over and allow the creative universe to come in and fulfill. So that's all I have to say about August. It's a beautiful month. Enjoy. Fill your heart with this Leo energy and shine. And then when the sun moves into Virgo, and we get into September, it's going to be a very different flow. So bye for now, and I will see you at the September forecast.